That's okay. There's another mic here. We're very grateful and blessed to have Dr. Stacy back to for all the people who have questions in our community. I told Dr. Stacy that I've been listening to Dr. Stacy for like 3 years, and she's in the beginning especially. She always talked about the Eon patch, and I was just like, yeah, I just want to get the X39 patch because I want to reset my stem cells. But recently, I've been working very hard out on my property. I'm building a well house. I'm building a garden. I just put on a beam for a second floor in my house. I'm starting to work on the second floor, and it's digging. And like, we do everything by hand. We don't have big machines up here. No one wants to come up here. So yeah, I mean, I was using X39, and then I got X49. I went to a boot camp, a Lifewave boot camp, and they gave me a sleeve of X49. I was like, wow, this is even better than just X39 alone. And then recently, I just decided to invest in some Eon patches, and I'm working really hard out there. We get up at when the sun comes up, and even before the sun comes up, and we're out there. I'm doing really framing, which is like heavy, a lot of heavy beams. I'm really a finished carpenter. I like to finish things, but now I'm having the pleasure of really framing a lot of the house, and the little side houses that I'm building. And the Eon patch is I can tell that if I didn't have the patches, my back would be killing me. But thanks to Eon and X39, X49, I'm just able to get out there and dig, and use my pickaxe all day and everything else, and it's just fine. So I think it also smooths out. I didn't really get this when you were talking about it. I mean, my brain sort of works. It's kind of like it only accepts certain information at certain times. It has to be bombarded long enough and hard enough for anything to penetrate. But I finally got the connection between Eon reducing inflammation and also reducing mental inflammation, clarity, peace. I don't have any worried thoughts. I'm just out. I don't think of anything. I just basically just let my body tell me what I'm doing next. I'll be working in the garden. All of a sudden, I'm working somewhere else. It just because I've dropped a tool, and this, I feel like I will allow the creational spirit to just sort of guide me through these things. But Eon is a terrific patch for mental clarity and not being in pain.
Yeah, absolutely. Ellie, you mentioned the top three patches that Lifewave has. So Eon was the number one selling patch for years and years before David figured out how to elevate GHK in the blood with X39, right? That 10-year period made basically he acquired 70 patents doing his research at the world renowned Stem Cell Institute in Ireland. So, in that stem cell research, he acquired 70 patents that led to X39. But before the release of that in 2018, Eon was the number one selling patch. So, when you look at number one, like you said, pain, inflammation, right? We know that inflammation, if there's pain there, there's inflammation there, right? Something's aggravated inside of the body. So, we can put Eon on location, and that can help reduce some of the inflammation on the site, whether it's the back or the knee or the elbow or the shoulder, whatever it may be. We can apply it to location, but we're also reducing inflammation systemically. And I know you and I have had this conversation for years. You're like, I'm not inflamed. I don't feel like I'm inflamed. And I agree with you. I don't feel like you look like you're inflamed. You can see people that are full of inflammation, right? Their kind of faces are distorted. It just is. They're inflamed. You can tell. And they've got a lot of health issues, because we know that underlying inflammatory process, that's our disease process, right? Really ramping up. And your doctor will tell you that. You go to the doctor. I'm not saying we go to the doctor. We don't. But if someone goes to the doctor And they say, oh, your inflammatory markers are through the roof, your C-reactive proteins, your cytokines, oh my gosh, look at your homocysteine, look at your A1C, they can see these things in our blood work. So when we look at reducing inflammation systemically, that's what most people think about. But we are bombarded every day by things that trigger that inflammatory process in the body, in our cells, right? We know stress does that. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Most people are very high stress. They are literally stuck in the sympathetic nervous system mode, right? Their bodies are like, fight or flight mode. But we also know just the environment, the air we breathe. There are different types of inflammatory processes that happen in the body just from the environment, just from this, right? Those wavelengths of light that aren't always beneficial. And so when we can reduce inflammation throughout the whole body daily, that's going to help in the prevention world. Like you and I are very into is preventing things from happening. You're almost 71 years old. I'm 51 years old. We want to be here for another 100 years, right?
Sure.
In our young, youthful, active, healthy states, doing all the things we want to do. And so keeping inflammation at bay is key. It's critical. Okay. Whether it's coming from pain, whether it's coming from, something else, food, obviously for most people, or not you having a garden, some of us that eat super clean, but looking at most people, their food's just inflaming them to no end. So then the other component we look at with Eon is that nervous system regulation. Like you said, no negative thoughts, no worrisome thoughts, no fearful thoughts, keeping your body in your nervous system in that parasympathetic state, calm, rest, relax, digest, happy patch. That's what we call Eon. That is critical to someone's healing journey and or keeping someone in that body state of repair. Where it's repairing itself and healing itself. So number one patch, Eon, has always been number one selling until the release of X39. Now it's number two because X39 took over as number one, being our patch that elevates GHK, which is the superhero of all peptides that decline as we age. And we know peptides decline. By the time you're in your 60s, you have about 20% of GHK active. It's just a peptide in your body. Peptides are chains of proteins, amino acids. At your age, Ellie, there's probably just a couple percentage. Well, would be, not you, because you've been using the patch for 3 years, but would be just a minuscule amount of GHK in the body. What is GHK responsible for? Neurological benefits, cardiovascular benefits. Let's back up. GHK crosses the blood-brain barrier. Not much crosses the blood-brain barrier. When you have something that can cross the blood-brain barrier, you're talking serious neuro repair. Okay, so we know the Eon's going to reduce the inflammation, neuroinflammation. GHK is going to go in and do repair. That's powerful. But cardiovascular benefits. We can see improvements in sleep and reduction in pain and inflammation in the body. We can see faster wound healing. I've been on Zoom conversations the last couple of days with Dr. Adam Shiner. He is a plastic surgeon here in Florida, in Tampa. He's on my team. And he's been requiring his patients to use X39 a minimum of 30 days before surgery for over 2 years now, and a minimum of 6 months after surgery. So it was 60 days, and then he changed it because of the results he saw from people that stayed on it. Not in the face. The face is healed up very quickly. He can see reduction in 40 to 50%, cut in half almost, because of using X39. The before and after pictures are mind-blowing. When you see his patients that did not use X39 versus the patients that did use X39, there's one picture that he has, shows 4 women. One woman did not use X39. At 5 weeks, she looked normal, right? Body looked healed. Everything had healed up. The other 3 women that used X39, 10 days. 10 days and they're normal. Their face is completely healed up. Nothing is wrong. That's a big difference. From 5 weeks is a normal healing time as a woman in their 50s or 60s to down to 10 days. That's why it's required if you want surgery with one of these top surgeons in the country. That's who he is. And so knowing that, it's going to dramatically change not just the healing if you have an accident or injury or surgery, but that's taking place on the inside of your body, right? We are elevating stem cells. That's what David's 70 patents were proving that we, in our patent, David has a patent, he has over 200 patents, but the patent for X39 states we elevate GHK in the blood. We reset genes. We are modulating genes by elevating GHK, and we are activating stem cells. There's not anything on the planet that does that. This is non-invasive. It is not putting anything in the body. It's asking the body to do what it did when it was younger. And when you look at the X39 and Eon combination, we call that the dynamic duo. When you have an area in your body that's inflamed, that's injured, okay, stem cells are going to that area. They want to go there and they want to repair it. Inflammation comes in and goes, I'm going to chomp you up, because inflammation consumes stem cells. So when you use the two together, we see a more dramatic, rapid repair in the body. So if you're saying, gosh, I use this Eon and now there's like no back pain, nothing. Well, you've got the stem cells. They're going to the areas that you are overexerting and or, causing maybe some micro traumas in from your activity that you're doing. But your inflammation's consuming some of them, quite a bit of them. So when you put on the Eon, the inflammation goes all the way, and the stem cells go, boom, let me repair, because the inflammation's out of the picture. Big difference. Okay. And then our number 3 selling patch that you mentioned is X49. X49 elevates that daughter peptide to X39. So we know that it has different benefits, where 39 is elevating the stem cells systemically, meaning throughout the whole body. X49 tends to go to certain areas. That peptide, AHK, really likes the muscle. So we can see lean muscle mass increase. It likes the brain. So we can see neurological improvements. Similar to GHK, but different, right? Different peptide. But we can also see dramatic changes cardiovascular. We can see reduction in blood pressure in as early as 60 days. No medicines, right? This is just your cardiovascular system functioning better, better circulation, better oxygenation. When we look at the disease process in the body, just in general, not any specific disease at all, but when we look at that, we have circulation problems. We have oxygenation problems. We have mitochondrial problems, right? And so we know that these peptides are going to impact your mitochondrial function. They're going to increase circulation, oxygenation. They're going to improve cell-to-cell communication. And when we look at the combo of 3949, we call that our performance bundle. We can see changes in bone density. We have obviously clinical studies that show this, but changes in the bone actually stops losing and increases its density. And we can see this with our people that, they go get their DEXA scans, right? Or they go to get their scans from the doctors. And they'll actually, what's really amazing is they'll have an area, like there's one lady that her L4, L5 would be where she had bone loss. She started using 3949 when she went to repeat her scan. That's where the new bone growth was. Now, when you talk about using 3949, again, it's happening systemically. But for her and for others, I've heard as well, too, in the hip region and in the knee region, things like that, where there's bone loss, the body is smart. It knows how to heal itself. So you can take all the toxic medicines that the doctors put you on that's supposed to help with your bones, or, all the stuff they recommend. But when you look at the actual peptides that trigger bone growth, increase that bone density, that's huge, because that's a key indicator of lifespan. Your muscle, we know that X3949 increases lean muscle mass, and we know your bones are going to be a key indicator, as well as stress. How you manage stress is going to determine your lifespan. So when we look at those 3 things, the X3949 Eon, no wonder they're number 1, 2, and 3. They make massive impacts in people's lives, physically, mentally, emotionally, We are literally rewiring and firing new neural networks and creating new neural pathways in the brain. It's a no-brainer, literally. Which is why I'm doing the brain series. Tonight's part 3 of our brain series. So we're going to dive into a little bit of food that's neuroprotective and anti-inflammatory, and we're going to talk about some recent studies that I've been reading, as well as some fun activities to be able to help improve brain function, along with, of course, using the patches to support the brain.
So it's a phenomenal technology, and things that the one thing that maybe people don't realize is that it takes time. It activates quite rapidly. I mean, I notice changes right away, but over time, the changes are more pronounced.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think a lot of people are just so used to taking a pill to that this is the only way they can be cured. And what we're finding out now is that a lot of those pills are not do not really necessarily have the your interest in mind. Like I was thinking, today this is kind of a non sequitur, but today they started up with chemtrails. Sunday was a big day for chemtrails here, and
Mm-hmm.
then yesterday not so much. Today they started like little wisps in the distance. I was thinking we should really call 911 and say, somebody's trying to kill me. Can
Yeah.
you help me? Because the government seems to be, I mean, RFK Jr. is really doing a tremendous job now turning the whole pyramid upside down. That's
Right.
huge. But we really have to look out for ourselves. And I think this technology is so cutting edge that some people might think like, yeah, it's got a bunch of woo-woo stuff, it's very nice. But I don't know, just I know the question I was going to ask you. We've been getting some questions about what are the best patches for weight loss.
Hmm. Okay. So it's the beginning of the year. Of course, we want to get our body back in check, right? So we don't have a weight loss patch. Okay. It's about the body being out of balance. How can I support the body getting back in balance? We can see with the 39-49 combo, 11% body fat reduction in 60 days. Not saying it's going to change the scale. Could, maybe not, because we know lean muscle mass, right? Muscle is going to weigh more than fat, but we can see body fat reduction in 60 days. We know the energy enhancer burns an extra 300 to 600 calories a day. Doesn't mean you can eat an extra 300 to 600 calories, but you're going to be in more of a calorie deficit when you're using energy enhancer, right? You've got to obviously monitor your own calories and macros based on your age and body type and, all the things, right? But we look at the Eon, which helps, of course, reduce inflammation in the body. The other thing that we look at is glutathione. Glutathione is a master detoxer. And we know toxins are stored in fat cells, and heavy metals, toxic substances are stored in fat cells. And so when we look at getting rid of some of that inflammation, some of those toxins, alleviating those heavy components to our cells, that obviously tends to help as well in the area. The last thing I'll say is, I don't say last thing. There's something else I need to add. SP6. SP6 is the only patch that we have that is proven to boost the metabolism and to curb the appetite. Okay. The other thing I will say is you're not going to lose weight unless you're sleeping. So whether it's Alavita or Silent Nights or a combination of both of them, sleep will determine if your body's able to drop the weight as well. Now, I'm not saying you have to use all those patches every day. I gave you different functionality of each that could support you depending on what's going on in your body. But you know that as well as I do, Ellie, you can't replace, the food with fake food. You can't. You need real clean food, clean, healthy sources of proteins, fats, and carbs. Not the cakes, the cookies, the pasta, the rice, the bagels, the oatmeal, the packaged cereal stuff, whatever, right? That's not going to be what supports your body in actually losing weight Protein is key. You need to be eating, if you're at least 100, 120, maybe 150 grams, if you're male, of protein a day. And if you're not aware of that, you're probably not eating anywhere near it. Because it is a definite mindful job to make sure you get in enough protein every day. When we look at longevity, having protein, our cells need protein. We don't actually need carbs at all. And I'm not saying I don't eat some, I do, but I'm not eating processed carbs, processed packaged foods that are toxic for me. I'm getting carbs from real things like sweet potatoes or my cruciferous vegetables, right? Things like that that I'm eating that are healthy sources of antioxidants and carbs for the body. So weight loss is it's interesting. I have a video on my YouTube. Laura and I did together a couple years ago, but we go into all the different patches and those things that I share. But it's definitely a combination of things. Hormones play into it, stress plays into it. So it's very different for every person. So you really need to be honest with yourself and say, where am I in terms of stress in my life? Because if I'm stuck in fight or flight mode, I'm not going to drop the weight. Where am I in terms of sleep in my life? What's in my pantry and what's in my refrigerator? Because a patch is not going to fix any of that. I can help you with sleep. I can help curb your appetite, right? I can help you with some of these things, but you have to do your part too.
I think that's a major plus for the Lifewave product is that when you start investing in your own health, you're like, wow, I'm investing in X39 to reset my stem cells, and let's say if you got the shot or something, but along with that, you feel committed to having good health, and you want to go watch your diet. You want to make sure you get plenty of rest and water and all this other good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a whole package. I think when you buy into the system, I think one of the key elements is that it really gives you hope, because it's not like any other healing technology. It's above. It's really. I saw you did a video about the med beds. Everyone's waiting for the med beds. If you're waiting for the med beds, I mean, put some patches on your body, man. These things are amazing. You want to be younger? Have at it. That's the whole David Schmidt's whole thing is reducing age and making us younger. So he studies lobsters and everything else. It's amazing. And Genesis. I mean, he's really an amazing guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, thank you so much. I've lost track of the time. Yeah, I guess you're probably Dr. Stacy. You guys don't know how busy she is, and we're so lucky that she comes and spends a half hour just with our community every week. So we're really blessed to have Dr. Stacy as part of our life.
Well, thank you, Ellie. I feel the same, to be here to be a blessing to you and your people as well, to be able to help as many people as possible. So please join me tonight, part 3 of our brain series at 8 p.m. Eastern on drstacyzoom.com. And then tomorrow night is our private patching wellness event. We'll have a great explanation of the technology, but 2 really impactful testimonials tomorrow night, and a little Q&A as well on drstacyzoom.com at 8 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday. And if you have questions, send me a text, send me an email, reach out. I'll call you or text you back, and I'm happy to help you get set up with Ellie so you can get the same wholesale price that he does. And if you want to share, we want to share with you. We want to help you help other people make an impact.
Well, thanks so much, Dr. Stacy, and we'll see you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks,
Okay.
Ellie.
Thank you.
Right. Bye.